The moment they dragged me into that abandoned loading bay, I knew the enforcers weren't just teaching me a lesson. They were sending a message to the African orphan who didn't belong. What none of them knew was that my adopted brother, Donghyun, the heir to Korea's most ruthless mafia empire, had already marked me in a way no one dared question. So when his convoy of black Maybachs cut across the alley, doors swinging open like a declaration of war, the entire world shifted. The men who mocked me froze, and Donghyun looked at me with that dangerous calm that always means someone is about to disappear. I'll tell you exactly what he did in the next 24 hours, the decision that turned our entire family upside down and bound our fates forever. But first, tap like, drop a comment about where you're watching from, and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Now, let's begin. The loading bay smelled like rust and old blood. My lip was split, metallic taste flooding my mouth as I pressed against the cold concrete wall. 3 of them circled me, mid-level enforcers from the Choi Syndicate, rivals who'd been waiting for an opportunity like this. "Look at her," the tallest one sneered in Korean, though he knew I understood every word. 7 years in the Kim family had made sure of that. Playing dress-up in designer clothes. You think that makes you one of them? I'd heard it all before. The whispers at family gatherings, the pointed stares from other syndicate families, the African girl the Kims took pity on. They never said it to my face when Donghyun was around. They wouldn't dare. But Donghyun was supposed to be in Busan tonight, handling a shipment dispute. These men had done their homework. The second enforcer grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. "Your brother can't protect you from everything. Maybe it's time someone taught you your real place." That's when I heard it, the low purr of multiple engines cutting through the rain-soaked alley. Not just one car, a convoy. The enforcers heard it too. Their confidence flickered. Then the alley exploded with light. High beams from 3 black Maybachs flooded the loading bay, turning the darkness into a stage. Doors opened in perfect synchronization, choreographed, military precise. 8 men in black suits emerged first, forming a perimeter. Then he stepped out. Donghyun moved like violence in a designer suit. Tom Ford, perfectly tailored, not a thread out of place despite the rain. His black hair was pushed back, jaw tight, and those eyes, God, those eyes held the kind of cold fury that made grown men confess to crimes they didn't commit. He didn't run, didn't rush, just walked with the certainty of someone who knew the world would rearrange itself around him. The enforcers released me immediately, stepping back. "Donghyun-si," the tall one stammered, bowing slightly. "We didn't know. We thought you were in Busan." "You thought wrong." His voice was quiet, terrifyingly quiet. He stopped 5 feet from them, hands in his pockets, relaxed. That's how I knew someone was about to die. Donghyun was never more dangerous than when he looked calm. His gaze slid to me, took in my split lip, the tear in my dress, the way I was cradling my ribs. Something shifted in his expression. Not rage. Rage was hot, impulsive. This was colder, surgical. Anaya. My name on his lips was different tonight. Possessive, final. "Did they touch you anywhere else?" I shook my head, not trusting my voice. His thumb brushed across my split lip, feather light, and I watched something dark and hungry flash through his eyes before he shuddered it away. He turned back to the enforcers. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go back to the Choi Syndicate and deliver a message." He pulled his phone from his pocket, tapped something, and suddenly the loading bay's old security camera, the one I thought was broken, lit up red, recording. "Tell them that Anaya James is under my personal protection, not as a sister, not as family, as mine. Anyone who touches her again doesn't just answer to the Kim family, they answer to me, personally. Donghyun-si, please." He held up one hand. His men moved forward. "You have 10 seconds to leave before I change my mind about letting you leave at all." They ran. The silence that followed was deafening. Rain drummed on the metal roof. His men maintained their perimeter, looking everywhere except at us. Donghyun's hand was still on my face. His eyes searched mine, looking for something I didn't understand. "Get in the car, Anaya." "Donghyun, what did you just—" "Get in the car," His voice dropped an octave. Not angry, something else entirely. We need to talk, and we're not doing it here. The penthouse was silent, except for the city humming 20 stories below. Dong-hyun had dismissed his men, even his personal guard. We were alone, something he never allowed, something that broke every protocol his father had drilled into him since childhood. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, Seoul's lights blurring through the glass. Behind me, I heard him pour 2 glasses of something expensive, whiskey probably, his father's Macallan. Drink. He pressed the glass into my hand. It'll help with the pain. I took a sip. It burned going down, matched the burn in my ribs. You called me yours, in front of witnesses, in front of cameras. I did. Those cameras feed directly to your father's security office. I know. Dong-hyun. I turned to face him. He'd removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves. Even disheveled, he looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread on Dangerous Men. What are you doing? Your father is going to... My father is going to accept it. He drained his glass in one swallow, set it down with controlled precision. Because I'm done pretending. Pretending what? That I see you as a sister. That I've ever seen you as a sister. He moved closer, and I should have stepped back, should have maintained distance. Instead, I stayed frozen as he invaded my space. You know when I realized? 3 years ago. That charity gala at the Sheila Hotel. You wore that red dress, the one my mother said was too mature for you. Some prosecutor's son wouldn't stop staring, kept finding excuses to touch your arm, your shoulder. I remembered. I'd been 19, new to the family's public events, overwhelmed by the attention. I broke his hand in the parking garage later that night. Dong-hyun's voice was casual, like he was discussing the weather. Told him if he looked at you like that again, I'd break more than his hand. My father had to smooth it over with the prosecutor's office. Cost him a favor he'd been saving. You never told me. I told myself it was protective. Big brother instinct. I'd laugh was bitter. But I don't look at my actual sister the way I look at you, Anya. I don't think about her the way I think about you. I don't wake up at 3 a.m. wondering if she's safe, if she's happy, if some fucking idiot is going to realize what I've known for years, that you're extraordinary. My glass nearly slipped from my hand. He caught it, set it aside. Tonight, when my man called and said you were in trouble, I was in a meeting with the Busan branch, high-level negotiation, months of planning. I walked out mid-sentence, got in my car, and drove 325 kilometers in under 3 hours. His hand came up, fingers threading into my hair, careful of my injuries. Do you understand what I'm saying? Dong-hyun. I turned to face him. He'd removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves. Even disheveled, he looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread on Dangerous Men. We can't. Your father adopted me when I was 15. They saved me from a group home in Lagos where you were going to age out with nothing. I know. I was there when my mother found you, remember? I was 21, thought I was coming along to intimidate charity workers. Instead, I met this 15-year-old girl who looked at my mother like she was seeing hope for the first time. His forehead pressed against my lips, his breath warm on my lips. You've been under my skin ever since. This is insane. Your father will never. My father needs me more than I need him. His voice hardened. The Busan branch is in chaos. The Choi Syndicate is pushing boundaries. 3 of our oldest allies are questioning leadership. I'm the only one holding the structure together, and he knows it. His thumb traced my jawline. He'll accept you because he doesn't have a choice. And if he doesn't, then I'll build my own empire. With you. The certainty in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it made something deep inside me crack open, something I'd been keeping locked away since I was 17 and first realized that what I felt for Dong-hyun wasn't a sisterly at all. I can't give you normal, he continued. I can't give you safe. My world is violence and blood money and enemies who will use anything I love as leverage. But I can give you honesty. I can give you protection. I can give you every fucking thing I have if you'll let me. Dong-hyun, say yes. His lips brushed my temple, my cheekbone, hovering over my mouth. Or tell me no right now and I'll never mention this again. We'll go back to pretending and I'll be the brother you need me to be. But you have to choose, Anya, tonight. Because after those enforcers report back, after my father sees that security footage, there's no going back to how things were. My heart was a war drum in my chest. 7 years of careful distance, of pushing down every inappropriate feeling, of telling myself that the way he looked at me sometimes was just my imagination, all of it shattered in this moment. If I say yes, I whispered, everything changes. Everything already changed. I'm just making it official. I looked up at him, at the man who'd taught me Korean curse words, who'd beaten anyone who disrespected me, who'd sat through my college graduation like it was a royal coronation, who looked at me like I was precious even when the rest of the world saw me as charity case. Yes. The word was barely out before his mouth was on mine, not gentle, not tentative, claiming. 7 years of restraint breaking like a dam. I gasped against his lips, and he swallowed the sound, kissing me like he was drowning and I was air. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. You're mine now, he said against my lips. Officially, completely, no more half measures. Your father will be here in approximately, he checked his watch, 45 minutes. I called him after we left the loading bay. Told him we needed to have a family meeting. Urgent. You did what? Anaya. He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. I don't do anything halfway. You should know that by now. Kim Jae-sung entered the penthouse like a king entering his throne room, gray hair immaculate, suit custom-made in Milan, presence commanding enough to make diplomats nervous. Behind him came Dong-hyun's mother, Kim Min-so, elegant in Chanel, her expression unreadable. I stood beside Dong-hyun in the living room, his hand resting possessively on my lower back, claiming me even now in front of them. Jae-sung's eyes tracked the gesture. His expression didn't change, but I saw the calculation happening behind those cold eyes. Min-so's gaze moved between us, and something like understanding flickered across her face. Father, mother. Dong-hyun's voice was respectful but firm. Thank you for coming. Your message said urgent. Jae-sung moved to the bar, poured himself a drink without asking permission. This was his son's penthouse, but he still moved through it like he owned it. I assume this is about the Choi Syndicate situation? In a way. Jae-sung turned, glass in hand, and really looked at me for the first time, took in my split lip, the bruise forming on my cheekbone, the way Dong-hyun stood slightly in front of me, protective. Anaya, you were hurt. Min-so moved forward, concern genuine. Whatever else she was, syndicate wife, social climber, calculating politician, she'd been kind to me, motherly in her way. What happened? Choi enforcers, Dong-hyun answered before I could. They grabbed her in their territory, thought they could get away with it. And where were her guards? Jae-sung's voice was sharp. I gave them the night off. I wanted to meet friends without protection? Jae-sung's eyes narrowed. You've been with this family for 7 years. You know better. She won't need to worry about that anymore. Dong-hyun's voice cut through the room like a blade. Because I'm making it clear to every syndicate family in Korea, Anaya is under my direct protection, not as a ward of the Kim family, as mine. Silence. Min-so's eyes widened slightly. Jae-sung went very still, the way apex predators do before they strike. Explain. One word. Glacial. I'm claiming her. Publicly. Officially. Dong-hyun didn't flinch. The way you claimed mother when your father tried to force you into that marriage to the Park daughter. That was different. Your mother and I weren't... Jae-sung stopped, realization dawning. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. She's your sister. She was never my sister. She was a girl my mother sponsored through a charity program who lived in our house. Legally, there's no relation. Morally, there's no violation. And personally, I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. Dong-hyun's voice dropped to that dangerous quiet again. I'm telling you out of respect, not asking permission. Jae-sung's glass hit the bar with a crack that should have shattered it. "You're threatening me?" Jae-sung's voice was deadly quiet. "I'm telling you the truth. You need me more than I need this family name." Dong-hyun pulled me closer, his arm around my waist. "But I'd rather have both, Anaya and the family. So I'm giving you a choice. Accept this, publicly support it, and we move forward stronger than ever. Or fight me and watch me walk away with half your empire." The tension in the room could have powered the city. Father and son faced each other, both alpha predators, both refusing to back down. Min-so moved first. She walked to me, studied my face, then looked at her son. "How long?" 3 years since I admitted it to myself, longer if I'm honest. She nodded slowly, then turned to her husband. "Jae-sung, remember when your father tried to force you into that marriage? Remember what you told him? Min-so, you said you'd rather burn the whole organization to the ground than spend your life with someone you didn't choose. You gave your father the same ultimatum Dong-hyun is giving you now, and your father was smart enough to accept it." Jae-sung stared at his wife, something passing between them, decades of marriage, of partnership in blood and business. Finally, he looked at me, really looked at me, not as the charity project, not as his daughter-in-law-to-be, but as a person who'd somehow become the fulcrum his entire empire was balancing on. "Do you love my son?" The question caught me off guard. Jae-sung wasn't a man who talked about love. Business, power, strategy, yes. Love was for romance novels and fools. "Yes." My voice was steady. "I do." "Why?" "Because he's the first person who ever made me feel like I belonged somewhere. Because he's brilliant and terrifying, and he's never treated me like I'm less than anyone else. Because when I look at him, I see home." Something flickered in Jae-sung's expression. Not approval, not yet, but maybe understanding. He drained his glass, set it down carefully. "If I accept this, and that's if, there are conditions." Dong-hyun's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "First, no scandals. This gets announced properly, through proper channels. We control the narrative before our enemies do." "Agreed." "Second, marriage. Soon, within 6 months. No long engagement that gives people time to gossip." "Not a problem." "Third," Jae-sung's eyes hardened. "You prove to me that this isn't just infatuation, that you're not just throwing away our reputation for something that'll burn out in a year. I want to see commitment, real commitment." "What do you want?" Dong-hyun asked carefully. Jae-sung smiled, and it wasn't kind. "Give me an heir. If you're so certain about this, then prove it. Give me a grandchild within the year. Show me this is about building a future, not indulging a fantasy." My heart stopped. Dong-hyun's hand tightened on my waist. "You want me to prove you're serious? You say she's yours, then claim her completely. Start a family. Give me a reason to believe this is worth the political capital it's going to cost me." Jae-sung's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "Or walk away now, and we'll pretend this conversation never happened." The room went silent again. Min-seo looked torn between horror and understanding. She knew her husband. This was a test, a challenge. Accept it, and Jae-sung would support them. Refuse, and he'd fight them with everything he had. Dong-hyun looked down at me. "Anya?" Everyone was staring at us, waiting. One word from me could change everything, could send Dong-hyun into open war with his father, could tear apart the empire, or I could say yes, could take this insane leap and trust that the man who'd protected me for 7 years wouldn't let me fall. "Okay." Dong-hyun's eyes widened slightly. "Are you sure? Are you?" He searched my face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. He must have found none, because he turned back to his father and said, "Deal. You'll have your heir." Jae-sung nodded once, sharp and final. "Then we have an understanding. Min-seo, schedule a family announcement for next week. Contact the publicity team. We'll frame this as a love story. Childhood connection grew into something more. Keep it clean, keep it romantic." "What about the other families?" Mincio asked quietly. The ones who will see this as a weakness. Let them. Jae-sung's smile was predatory now. If anyone wants to test whether Dong-yun's distraction makes him weak, they're welcome to try. Something tells me they'll regret it. He moved to the door, then paused and looked back at us. You have 1 year. Don't make me regret this. After they left, Dong-yun pulled me into his arms, buried his face in my hair. I could feel him shaking slightly. Adrenaline, relief, residual fury. Did we just agree to have a baby? I whispered. We just agreed to a lot of things. He pulled back, cupped my face. Are you okay? That was a lot. If you want to back out. Dong-yun. I covered his hands with mine. I'm terrified, but I'm not backing out. He put a deadline on us. I know. This is insane. I know that too. I smiled despite everything. But nothing about us has ever been normal, has it? He kissed me again, softer this time. No, it hasn't. We ended up on the penthouse balcony, 20 stories up, Seoul sprawling beneath us like a circuit board. Dong-yun had loosened his tie, rolled his sleeves higher. I was wrapped in one of his hoodies, bare feet on cold tile, his arms around me from behind. Talk to me, he said quietly. Tell me what you're thinking. I'm thinking your father just essentially demanded we have a baby within a year to prove this is real. He's always been a manipulative bastard. I'm also thinking, I turned in his arms, looked up at him, that maybe he's not wrong. Dong-hyun's eyes sharpened. Explain. If we're doing this, really doing this, then why wait? Your world doesn't give you time to ease into things. Every day we delay is another day your enemies think they can use me against you. Another day the other families question your judgment. I took a breath. But if we start a family, if we show them this is forever, then we take away their weapons. Anaya, having a child isn't a strategic move. I know that. But with us, it's both, isn't it? It's love and strategy, personal and political. I pressed my hand to his chest, felt his heart racing beneath my palm. I'm not saying this because your father demanded it. I'm saying it because I want it, with you. Maybe not on his timeline, but soon. He stared at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. You're 22 years old. You should be finishing university, figuring out who you are, not binding myself to a Mafia heir and planning a family. I laughed. Dong-hyun, I've been in this world for 7 years. I know exactly what I'm choosing. I know what your life is, what our life would be. Violence, danger, enemies who'll never stop coming, and loyalty, power, a family that would burn the world for each other. I pulled his face down to mine. Stop trying to talk me out of this. I'm trying to give you an out, one last chance to run. I don't want an out. I want you. Something in him broke then, the last wall of restraint, the final barrier of doubt. He kissed me hard, possessive, lifting me up as I wrapped my legs around his waist. We stumbled back into the penthouse, knocking into furniture, shedding clothes like they personally offended us. Bedroom, I gasped between kisses. Too far. He set me on the kitchen counter, pushed up the hoodie I'd borrowed. His hands were everywhere, reverent and desperate at once. Do you have any idea how long I've wanted you? How many nights I've imagined this? I pulled his shirt over his head, ran my hands over the lean muscle of his torso, the tattoos he kept hidden under designer suits, dragon on his ribs, Korean characters down his side, family honor, family above all. Show me, I whispered. I woke up in Dong-hyun's bed, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, wrapped in sheets that probably cost more than my first year of university. My body ached in ways that made me blush, but I'd never felt more complete. Dong-hyun wasn't beside me. For a moment, panic flared. Had he regretted it? Had last night been a mistake he was already trying to undo? Then, I smelled coffee. I found him in the kitchen, wearing only pajama pants, making breakfast, actually cooking, not ordering from one of his usual services. He set down the spatula, pulled me into his arms. Morning. He kissed my forehead. How do you feel? Sore, happy, terrified? Take your pick. He kissed my forehead. all reasonable responses to the last 12 hours. Are you making pancakes? My mother taught me when I was 7. I never do it because it seems weak for a mob boss to make breakfast. He grinned, and God, it transformed his face. But you're not the mob. You're mine. I can be weak with you. I melted into him, breathing in his scent, now mixed with mine. Your father is going to call. Already did. 4 times. I've been ignoring him. Dong-hyun! He can wait. This morning is ours. He guided me to the breakfast bar, set a plate in front of me. Eat. Then we need to talk about what happens next. What happened next turned out to be a whirlwind that made the last 12 hours look calm by comparison. The Kim family conference room designed to intimidate. Dark wood, leather chairs, a table that could seat 20. Today, it held 15 people. Immediate family, key advisors, the publicity team, and the family lawyer. Dong-hyun had dressed me that morning, not in anything provocative, but in a cream Dior dress that screamed sophistication. Conservative, but expensive. His message was clear. She's not a scandal. She's an asset. I sat beside him, his hand covering mine on the armrest of my chair. Across from us, Jae-sung and Min-so presented a united front. The advisors looked variously shocked, calculating, and in one case, openly disapproving. "Thank you all for coming on short notice," Jae-sung began. His voice had that particular quality that made even the most powerful people sit straighter. "We have an announcement that will affect the family's public image and strategic positioning." He nodded to Dong-hyun. "My boyfriend? Fiancé? God, we hadn't even discussed labels." He stood, pulling me up with him. "As you all know, Anaya James has been part of our family for 7 years. What you don't know is that our relationship has evolved beyond familial bonds. I'm claiming her as my partner. We'll be married within 6 months, and we expect full family support in making this transition smooth for both our private life and our public image." The room erupted. "This is inappropriate. The media will tear us apart. What about the arrangement with the Lee family's daughter?" Jae-sung's palm hit the table once. Silence fell immediately. "These concerns have been addressed. The Lee arrangement was preliminary, not binding. As for the media, that's why we have a publicity team." He looked at each person in turn. "This is not a debate. This is an announcement. Anyone who cannot support this is free to seek employment elsewhere." The message was clear. Fall in line or get out. The publicity director, a sharp woman named Park Hae-jin, leaned forward. "With respect, sir, we need to control the narrative immediately. Once this gets out, and it will get out, we'll have approximately 6 hours before the gossip sites explode." "Recommendations?" Jae-sung asked. "Press release today, major media outlets. Frame it as a romantic story. Childhood connection, grew into love. Emphasize the engagement, the wedding plans. Make it feel inevitable, like a fairy tale, not a scandal. Photos," Min-seo added. "We need photos of them together, looking happy, candid feeling but carefully staged. And we address the adoption angle immediately," Hae-jin continued. "She was never legally adopted, always a ward of the family's charitable foundation. Different situation entirely." I sat silent through all of this, feeling like a chess piece being moved around a board. Dong-hyun's thumb stroked the back of my hand, his way of checking in, making sure I was okay. "There's one more thing." Jae-sung's voice cut through the strategic planning. "We're expecting an heir within the year." The room went silent again. Hae-jin's eyebrows shot up. Min-seo looked pained but unsurprised. "That's fast," one of the advisors said carefully. "That's the plan." Dong-hyun's voice left no room for discussion. "Any other concerns?" The press release went out at 2 p.m. By 2:07, my phone was exploding. Old friends from university, acquaintances from charity events, people I'd met once at parties. Everyone wanted to know if it was true, if I was really engaged to Dong-hyun Kim, if the rumors about us were accurate. I turned my phone off. Dong-hyun did the same with his, tossing it onto the couch beside him. We were back in his penthouse, hiding from the world for a few more hours before the real circus began. Tomorrow, we have our first public appearance, charity gala, very high profile. Every major family will be there. So I get to be stared at by everyone who thinks I don't belong. You get to walk in on my arm wearing something that costs more than their cars with a ring that'll blind them from across the room, while I make it clear that anyone who disrespects you answers to me personally. He pulled me into his lap. Think you can handle that? I've handled worse. The Choi enforcers? Your mother's dinner parties where everyone pretended I wasn't there while talking about me in the third person. He laughed, the sound rich and genuine. Fair point. Then he sobered. Anaya, I need you to understand something. The next few months are going to be brutal. Every enemy I've made will try to use you as leverage. Every family that's jealous of our position will spread rumors. The gossip sites will dig into your past, your background, looking for anything scandalous. I know. And when the pregnancy happens, when we actually start trying for my father's heir, the scrutiny will get worse. They'll watch your body, count the months, speculate about everything. I know that too. I cupped his face. Dong-hyun, I'm not going into this blind. I know what your world is, what our world is, and I'm choosing it anyway. Why? The question was raw, vulnerable. You could have had a normal life, could have finished university, met some regular guy, had a simple, safe existence. Why choose this? Why choose me? Because normal was never an option for me. I was a foster kid in Lagos, aging out with no prospects, no family, no future. Your mother's charity gave me a chance. You gave me a life. And somewhere along the way, you became the only future I wanted. Kissed me softly. I'm not choosing this despite the danger. I'm choosing it because it means I get to be with you. He held me like I was the most precious thing in his world. Maybe I was. I'll protect you. He whispered against my hair, whatever it takes, however dangerous it gets. You're mine, and I protect what's mine. I know. And when we have a child, his hand splayed across my flat stomach, possessive and wondering, I'll protect them too. Build an empire they can inherit. Create a world where our family is untouchable. The next morning, Dong-hyun woke me before dawn. Get dressed. Something comfortable. We're going somewhere. Where? You'll see. An hour later, we stood on a cliff overlooking the ocean, some private stretch of coastline his family owned, miles from Seoul. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. It was breathtaking. This is where my grandfather proposed to my grandmother, Dong-hyun said quietly. 60 years ago, she was from a poor family. He was heir to an empire. Everyone said it wouldn't work. But he brought her here, promised her the world, and spent the next 50 years keeping that promise. He turned to face me, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. When he opened it, I gasped. The ring was stunning, a rare pink diamond surrounded by smaller white diamonds, set in platinum. Not ostentatious, but undeniably valuable. More importantly, it was beautiful. I had this made 3 months ago, he admitted. Told myself I was being crazy, that I'd never actually give it to you. Kept it in my safe like a shameful secret. He took my hand. But I think part of me always knew we'd end up here. Dong-hyun! I know we're doing everything backward. I know your father already strong-armed us into an accelerated timeline. I know the proposal should have come before the sex, before the public announcement, before all of it. He dropped to one knee on the cliff's edge, and my breath caught. But I want to do this part right. Not for the cameras, not for the family, just for us. Tears blurred my vision. Anaya James, you walked into my life 7 years ago and turned everything I thought I knew upside down. You made me want to be better, stronger, more worthy of you. You saw past the heir, past the enforcer, past all the blood on my hands, and somehow decided I was worth loving. His voice cracked slightly. I can't promise you easy, I can't promise you safe, but I can promise you this. Every breath in my body, every drop of blood, every ounce of power I have, it's all yours. I will burn down anyone who threatens you. I will build you an empire if you ask. I will love you until my last breath, and probably beyond." He slid the ring onto my finger. Perfect fit. Marry me. Not because my father demands it, not because it's strategic, but because I cannot imagine a single day of my future without you in it. Yes, the word came out choked with tears. Yes, of course, yes. He stood, pulled me into his arms, and kissed me like we were the only two people in the world. Maybe in that moment we were. When we finally pulled apart, the sun had fully risen. A new day. A new beginning. We have about 3 hours before the media frenzy really starts, before we become public property. What do you want to do with it? I smiled, reached up to kiss him again. Let's just be us. For 3 more hours, let's just be Donghyun and Anaya. Not the heir and his controversial choice, not the scandal waiting to explode. Just us. I can do that. We spent those 3 hours on that cliff, talking, laughing, planning a future that felt both impossible and inevitable. He told me about the enemies we'd face, the families who'd test us, the challenges ahead. I told him about my fears, my hopes, my dreams for the life we were building. And when his phone finally started ringing with the inevitable barrage of calls, when reality came crashing back in, we faced it together. 24 hours after those Choi enforcers grabbed me in that loading bay, I stood in front of a mirror in Donghyun's penthouse, wearing a custom gown worth more than some people's houses, preparing for our first public appearance as an engaged couple. Min So stood behind me, adjusting my necklace, diamonds and sapphires, family heirlooms she had insisted I wear. "You look beautiful." I looked terrified. "Good. Terror keeps you sharp." She met my eyes in the mirror. "The women at this gala are going to try to break you. They'll smile to your face and shred you behind your back. They'll question your worthiness, your background, your right to stand beside my son." "Thanks for the talk, Pep," she laughed. "I'm not finished. They'll try all that, and they'll fail. Do you know why? Because Donghyun will defend me? Because you're stronger than any of them." She turned to me to face her. "I chose you 7 years ago because I saw something in you. Fire, resilience, intelligence, and I was right." She squeezed my shoulders. "My son is lucky to have you. Don't let anyone, not the other families, not the media, not even Jae Sung on his worst days, make you forget that." I hugged her, this woman who'd given me a second chance at family. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Wait until you survive your first syndicate dinner party." Donghyun appeared in the doorway, devastating in a black tuxedo, and the breath left my lungs. His eyes swept over me, dark and hungry. "Leave us, mother." Min So smiled knowingly. 5 minutes, the car is waiting." When we were alone, he crossed to me in 3 strides, hands framing my face. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." "You're biased." "Completely." He kissed me softly. "Last chance to run. Stop offering me exits I'm never going to take. Can't help it. I keep expecting you to wake up and realize what you've signed up for." I pressed my hand over his heart. I know exactly what I signed up for. Do you? A lifetime of protecting you, a lifetime of loving you, a lifetime of dealing with your smart mouth and stubborn streak. He grinned. "Yeah, I think I can handle it." "And the baby thing? Your father's deadline?" His expression grew serious. "We don't have to rush that part. I can manage my father. I want to." The words came out firm, certain. "Not because he demanded it, because I want to build a family with you, want to see what we create together." I smiled. "Besides, can you imagine the look on everyone's faces when we show up to next year's gala with an heir? The ultimate power move." He laughed, the sound rich with love and amusement. "You're going to be a terrifying mob wife. I learned from the best." The ballroom was a sea of designer gowns and dangerous men in expensive suits. Every major family was represented. Allies, rivals, enemies pretending to be friends. The moment we entered, conversation stuttered to a halt. Every eye in the room turned on us. Donghyun's hand tightened on mine. Then he led me into the room like he was leading me into battle, chin high, stride confident, daring anyone to say a word. The crowd parted. Donghyun Si. The first to approach was Lee Jin-woo, head of the Lee family, the same family that had been apparently expecting their daughter to marry Donghyun. His smile didn't reach his eyes. What an unexpected announcement. Jin-woo Si. Donghyun's voice was cordial but cold. I trust there are no hard feelings about the change in plans. Of course not, though I admit surprise. Such an unconventional choice. The insult was subtle, wrapped in politeness. I felt Donghyun tense beside me. I spoke before he could. Unconventional is a kind word for it. I prefer unprecedented. After all, how many women can say they captured the attention of Korea's most eligible heir? I smiled, sharp and sweet. Must be quite the blow to those who assumed they had a chance. Jin-woo's eyes narrowed. Beside him, his daughter, the one who'd expected to be in my position, flushed red. Donghyun's hand moved to my waist, possessive and proud. My fiancé is right. I've always preferred the unprecedented to the predictable. We moved through the crowd like that, facing down subtle insults and not-so-subtle challenges, presenting a united front. Some families were genuinely congratulatory. Others barely masked their contempt. Donghyun handled the latter with the same cold efficiency he handled all his enemies. It was exhausting, exhilarating, exactly what I'd signed up for. 3 hours into the gala, I excused myself to the restroom. Min-soo had warned me about this. Never go alone, always have backup. But I'd spotted Donghyun's sister, Kim So-yeon, heading that way and followed. The restroom was empty except for 3 women fixing their makeup. They saw me in the mirror and went silent. Then one of them, Park Hae-young, wife of a mid-level syndicate boss, smiled. "Anaya-si, congratulations on your engagement." "Thank you. Such a whirlwind romance. One day you're family, the next you're engaged. It must have happened so fast." The others tittered. I recognized the game. This was about making me feel small, out of place. "Not really," I said, touching up my lipstick. "Donghyun and I have known each other for 7 years. We've had plenty of time to understand each other." "Oh, we didn't mean—" Hae-young's smile was poisonous. "It's just that some of us have been in this world our whole lives. We understand the complexities, the expectations, the way things work. And you think I don't? We're just saying it's a lot to learn, especially for someone from your background." There it was, the real attack. Not about me being an outsider to the romantic relationship, but about me being an outsider to their world entirely. I set down my lipstick, turned to face them fully. "You're right. I didn't grow up in this world. I grew up in foster care in Lagos, wondering if I'd have food that day. But you know what that taught me? How to survive, how to fight, how to recognize enemies even when they smile at me." I stepped closer, and all 3 women leaned back slightly. "You want to talk about understanding this world? I've spent 7 years watching, learning, adapting. I know who's loyal and who's waiting for a chance to backstab. I know which families are solid and which are one bad deal from collapse. I know things you wouldn't believe because people underestimate me. They think I'm just the charity case, just the African girl playing dress-up. But here's what you need to understand. I'm going to be Donghyun's wife, the mother of the next heir. That makes me someone you very much want on your side. So you can either accept that and treat me with respect, or you can keep playing these little games and find out why Donghyun chose someone who knows how to fight over someone who knows how to curtsy." Silence. Then Hae-young's smile faltered. "We didn't mean any offense." "Yes, you did, but I'll let it slide. This once." I collected my clutch. "Enjoy your evening, ladies." I walked out with my head high, heart pounding. Only when I was safely in the hallway did I let out a shaky breath. "That was magnificent." I spun. So-yeon stood there, grinning. "How long were you listening?" "Long enough. You just put Park Hae-young in her place. She's going to tell everyone you threatened her." "Did I?" "Absolutely, but she deserved it." So-yeon linked her arm through mine. "Come on, let's go find my brother. He's probably threatening someone himself by now." We found him in intense conversation with his father and 2 other family heads. When he saw me, he excused himself immediately and came over. "Everything okay?" His eyes scanned me, looking for signs of distress. "Perfect. Just had a moment with some of the wives." "Do I need to handle anyone?" "I handled it myself." Pride flashed in his eyes. That's my girl. The rest of the gala passed in a blur of introductions, veiled threats, and political maneuvering. By the time we left, I was exhausted but triumphant. In the car, Dong-hyun pulled me against him. "You were incredible tonight. Did you see the look on Lee's face when you put him in his place? I learned from the best. My mother? You." I looked up at him. "Every time someone disrespected me over the years, you showed me how to handle it, not with violence, but with confidence, with the absolute certainty that I belonged exactly where I was." He kissed my head. "You do belong, always have." The pregnancy test sat on the bathroom counter, 2 pink lines screaming up at me. Positive. I'd suspected for a week, the nausea, the fatigue, the way my body felt different, but seeing it confirmed made it real. I was pregnant with Dong-hyun's child, the heir his father had demanded, the future of the Kim empire. Terror and joy warred in my chest. I heard the penthouse door open, Dong-hyun calling my name. He'd been in meetings all day, handling some dispute with a Japanese syndicate. I'd stayed home, claiming I felt ill. Not a lie. "Ania, you okay?" I picked up the test, walked out of the bathroom. He was in the living room, pulling off his tie, looking exhausted. When he saw my face, he froze. "What's wrong?" I held up the test silently. His eyes went wide, dropped to my stomach, back to my face. "You're pregnant?" "About 6 weeks, I think." The emotions that flickered across his face, shock, joy, fear, wonder, would have been comical if they weren't so raw. Then he was across the room, dropping to his knees in front of me, hands reverent on my still flat stomach. "We're having a baby." His voice cracked. "We're actually... Your father's going to be thrilled." He looked up at me, eyes shining. "Fuck my father. I'm thrilled. You're carrying our child, our family, something that's ours, not his, not the empire's, ours." I laughed through sudden tears. "We're really doing this. Getting married in 2 months, having a baby, running a criminal empire, building a family," he corrected, standing to pull me into his arms. "Everything else is just details. The best kind." He held me like that for a long moment, both of us processing this new reality. Then he pulled back, cupped my face, suddenly serious. "I'm going to protect you both, whatever it takes, whoever I have to eliminate. This baby, our family, it's everything now." "I know, and I'm going to be a good father, better than mine. Our children will know they're loved, not just trained to be heirs. They'll know safety, stability." "Dong-hyun," I pressed my finger to his lips, "you're already going to be a great father. I know it." "How?" "Because you've been protecting me like I was precious since the day we met. Because you see people as more than assets. Because underneath all the danger and darkness, you have the biggest heart of anyone I know." He kissed me then, deep and claiming, one hand still on my stomach. When we pulled apart, he was smiling, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. 24 hours, he murmured. That's how long it took to change everything. From the moment those enforcers grabbed you to right now. 24 hours that rewrote our entire future. Best 24 hours of my life. Even with the violence, the family drama, my father's manipulation, especially with all of that, because it led us here. I covered his hand on my stomach, to this moment, this future, this family we're building. "I love you." The words were raw, honest, everything he was beneath the armor he showed the world. "I love you so fucking much, it terrifies me." "I love you too." Outside, soul glittered with possibility. Inside, we held each other and our unborn child, knowing that the hardest parts were yet to come. There would be more challenges, more enemies, more impossible situations to navigate. But we'd face them together. The African orphan who didn't belong and the Mafia heir who claimed her. Building an empire, creating a legacy, proving that sometimes the most unlikely love stories are the ones that last forever. And somewhere in his office, Kim Jae-sung received the news of the pregnancy and smiled, not because his son had followed orders, but because for the first time in years, Dong-hyun looked truly happy. Sometimes, the old man admitted to himself, the best strategic moves are the ones that come from the heart. The end. 24 hours to claim her, a lifetime to keep her, and an empire to protect them both. If you want to see more love and intense stories, hit that subscribe button and make sure you click on this video right here because this story is also wild.